Hello there. Hi, everyone. I haven't done a video in a while. Whatever. I think you're used to that at this point. Um, but I wanted to talk about something that's kind of been inevitable to discuss on this channel, and that is my physical video game collection. Now, I'm not going to get into everything because, good lord, we don't have time for that. But I did want to talk about my Switch 1 and Switch 2 collection. I'm only lumping Switch 2 in here because there's like 5 games, so it's not that much comparatively. Um, and so yeah, I think I want to do my not Switch games in a separate video because it's about, I'd say it's probably about 40-ish, maybe 50, 60, more like 60% of my collection is not Switch 2. But as far as like one console goes, Switch 2 is my largest, and I probably have more to say about everything on Switch 1, Switch 2. So I figured it would make sense to do these all in one video. And so yeah, this might be a long one. I don't know. I would like to keep this under an hour. 30 minutes would be beautiful. But I remember like early on this channel, I spent like 20 minutes talking about like 5 vinyl records. So we'll see. We'll see how this goes. Unfortunately, they're not much of an order. It's gonna be just I have a stack of them all right here, and I'm just gonna pull them up and I'm gonna talk about them, say whatever I have to say, and then I'm gonna move on. So that's not mine. There's also just one more caveat before I get into things. Some of these games that I have in my big old stack here aren't mine, so I might throw one to the side because it's not actually mine. But of the people in my house, I've bought by far the majority of the like physical Switch games. Let's start right here because this was my personal favorite Switch game, Breath of the Wild. I'm not going to talk too much on this, but this is like probably my favorite or like my second favorite game of all time. Deltarune is very close to beating this, but this is a very, very special game to me. I attribute this to like getting me into games as like a medium. I'd played video games before, obviously. I grew up playing games, but it was this game that like truly like enamored me to the point of caring about it as like a medium and like being like, oh, I want to go back and like play all these old Zelda games. I want to know everything there's to know about like Nintendo and all this crap. And it snowballed to the point to where I am now, where I'm talking about this on freaking YouTube. But yeah, so anyway, this game very, very, very special to me. Definitely my favorite Zelda game. And yeah, this is the copy I got when I was 11 years old. This was a gift from my grandfather who has passed away. But he got this for me because I mentioned we were like visiting one time, like 2017. My family got a Switch like a month or two earlier, and I really, really wanted this game, and I mentioned it to my grandfather, and he talked about how he played Zelda on the NES a ton. And so because of that, he was like, "Hey, how much is the game?" And I was like, 60 bones, and then he handed me the money, and then we went to Walmart right after we had dinner with them, and we picked it up. And I didn't bring a charger, or I didn't bring like my charger for my Switch at the time. I just had like a car charger, and so I was going over to like spend a few nights at like my grandmother's, and I didn't have a charger, and the Switch genuinely was like at 10%. And so I remember that night I played like 5 minutes or so, but maybe a little more than that. But like I did not play much, just wandered around the Great Plateau. But I was enamored. Like I remember thinking the entire game was the Great Plateau because it was just like such a massive expanse to me, and like it changed so much. It was. I mean, you guys get this. This is a pretty mind blowing game if you're 11 years old and you've been playing like Wii and DS games up until that point. So anyway, starting off here. And then I will go ahead and grab the other game I got with my Switch early on. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. This was actually the game we got, like I got with the Switch, which is funny because I had a Wii U and I had Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U. So my family, like we sold the family Wii U to get a Switch. And the only game we had on it for like 2 months was a game we had on Wii U. But I was content. I was very content with this. I played more of Mario Kart 8 on Wii U probably, but I played a decent. I've put in like 120 something hours on the Switch version over the years. So anyway, whatever. I'm not gonna talk too much about this, but in the pile you go. Jumping ahead a little bit, might as well talk about Age of Calamity. This is a game a lot of people. I think people tried it out. I think people liked it a decent bit. I know the series isn't super popular with everybody, and I know a lot of people didn't like the like kind of time travel element of the plotline. I never minded that. If anything, I just liked how like this game expanded on the world of Breath of the Wild because, well, yes, it's not strictly canon. It still works in the sense of that, like, it gives you a pretty clear idea of how the world worked pre Breath of the Wild, and I think it shows, like the ways things aren't canon, you can piece together yourself. Like, you don't have to have it spelled out to you how things would have looked without like the things. If things weren't retconned, you can still piece together how things looked. I think it might have been a little cool to see everybody like fail up close and personal, but I mean that's not a fun way to end a game. So whatever. I like this game a lot. I think it is probably the hardest Hyrule Warriors game to go back to these days, just because this is the only one stuck at like 30 FPS, which it runs a lot better on Switch 2 than it did on Switch 1. This was the first game I played on Switch 1 where I could tell it was kind of chugging. But I didn't really mind that much. And especially now, that doesn't matter a ton because you can play it on Switch 2. And while, yes, I would like a patch of some kind to put it at, 60 FPS, it still runs pretty smooth. But yeah, it does make it stand out a little bit now because, like, the other two Hyrule Warriors games hit 60. So, anyway, into the pile you go. Also, I do like that soundtrack a lot. It's a good soundtrack. I think the Warriors games, specifically like the Switch ones, have a pretty underrated soundtrack. We'll just keep talking about Zelda because they're right here. We got Tears of the Kingdom. We're in that period where like this one's kind of controversial. But my general take is that like this is kind of the better game in that from just like purely like you remove like story elements. This one is I think a more enjoyable game, and I think a lot of the freedom of like puzzle solving and just like creativity this game allows is just it makes it hard to go back to Breath of the Wild. Even though I think Breath of the Wild is a more cohesive game, this one I think its ideas really shine, and I really like its gameplay loop. Like I don't even mind stuff like the depths being rather like empty because the way I play the game, I'm not in the depths for too long to like notice. I dip in, I collect what I need, I do what I need to do down there, and I go up, and it created a pretty fun gameplay loop to me, and I really liked re-exploring the map and finding new things to do in the game, because of how much Breath of the Wild meant to me. Like, it was just a really special thing to go back and, like, have new dialogue from NPCs I cared about, or, thought you'd be able to go explore, like, caves that have now opened up in spots where they weren't before, and so it was a very special game to me, definitely, like, in my top 5 games. I think I probably prefer Breath of the Wild as like a cohesive package, but I do think this game holds up really well for me. And obviously, like, I'm acting like people hate this game. It's got like 10 out of 10s everywhere. Like, of course, like people understand this is a good game, but I'm definitely in the camp that really, really, really appreciates this, and still appreciates this a lot more than like, a decent chunk of people online. I will say if you're playing this game and you're not happy with like say like the dungeons, because I do understand that's like a weak point. I highly, highly, highly recommend you turn off the HUD and just like try to figure out what to do yourself. Like it took me like I think 2-3 hours to figure out the like I forget what it's called. I want to say the temple, like the light temple. I don't know. It was the temple in the Gerudo region. I'm forgetting what it's called. But it took me a long time to get through that dungeon with like the HUD turned off, and it made it really fun. So anyway, I like this game. Whoa. I think we're on to the last Zelda I have physically, which is Echoes of Wisdom. Unfortunately, I have not gone around to beating this one. I played a few hours and I really liked it because I like how it adapted similar gameplay ideas and design philosophy of the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom type Zelda games, but it adapted them into a 2D game. And I like that a lot. I know, again, people have their feelings about open world Zelda, and I respect that. But for me, as someone who likes it, I really liked having it in a 2D game. From what I've played, again, I've not beat this. Because I bought this game not necessarily because I wanted to beat it immediately. Actually, I bought it in like last year when I went to New York City, and I went to the Nintendo store, and I was like, I have to go into the store, and I have to like buy a game, and so I bought Echoes of Wisdom, and you can kind of see it up there. I have a plush of like Shiver from Splatoon. She's kind of sitting down. You can't really see her well. I bought that plush, and then I have a Princess Peach plush over there. I bought those things from the Nintendo store in New York City because that'd be cool. But yes, I do want to play this game soon. It's definitely on the list. And also, I'm very happy there's a Zelda game where you play as Zelda, like a normal mainline game. I think that's very cool. So yeah. Also very happy Grezzo got to develop their own game, because after remaking so many Zelda games for like, a decade. Anyway, all that, very cool stuff. Into the pile you go. Okay, I'm moving aside the Switch 2 games that are sitting right here for now, because I want to talk about them last. But just send those aside. Here we got Metroid Dread. This is the second third Metro game I've beat. I really like this one a lot. This one was cool because I actually was able to get my dad into this one. He beat it and he liked it, and he doesn't normally play 2D games at all. This was a fun game. It was also very very challenging. I remember like the final boss in this game really hard. I think the music is kind of the weak point compared to the overall like series, but this one's a good time. I like it a lot. If you can pick it up, I highly recommend it. Especially because like all the Metro games are on Switch now, so like you can try those out if you want. And if you like, say, something like Metroid Fusion or Zero Mission, definitely check this out. This one's fun. It has like even like kind of like mild horror elements. I don't know, like that. Anyway, I'm not getting into it. It's a cool game. I like it a lot. This one right here, Lego Worlds. This is like the fourth game I got for the Switch. I don't really remember why I liked it or like why I wanted to get it. This was in like the period where I was still mildly interested in kind of like your more licensed game junk. I think the real reason I got it was because it was on sale at the time for like $30 at a Toys R Us. Yeah, I bought this at Toys R Us back when those were like a thing. It's fine. It's a decent like kind of Minecraft style sandbox game. Honestly, bits of it kind of remind me of No Man's Sky, which came out I think afterwards. They might have been at the same time, but it's a solid game. I put like a stupid amount of time in this, like 70 hours, because you're 11 and you have 4 games. You're gonna get your time out of them, especially when this was like one of the more content dense games, or one of the more replayable, I should say, of the ones I had early on. So it's a fine game. This is also the only Switch game I ever considered getting rid of, because I had my younger sibling had a friend who wanted it, and I almost gave it to her, and I didn't, and I'm happy I didn't, because I do have memories with it. It is kind of somewhat sentimental. End of the pile. Okay, that's not mine. Okay, so we'll get to 2 that are, a bit more recent purchases, but they are similar in vein. So we have Omori, and we have In Stars in Time. I'm going to talk about this one first, because I haven't played this yet, because I don't have another RPG in me right now. But I bought it from Limited Run Games because I felt like it would be cheaper to buy it now, when they have like a few copies left in stock before trying to wait and get it after like it's been sold out and whatever, and it's become rare. I do really like the box art though. Like it kind of has like old like 90s Nintendo box art, but like Japanese box art where like they were like a lot more artsy. Like if you ever like look up, I want to say Ocarina of Time has like a really, really interesting box art in Japan, and it just again looks like so much kind of like lamer. Like not to knock like the more iconic like gold Zelda box art, but I do. It evokes all like Japanese Nintendo like art, um, and yeah. But this game I've not played it. My friend saw it online, and was like, "Oh yeah, you should check that out. It looks like a U game." And I played like 30 minutes, and I was like, "This is very much a me game," but I don't have another, you know, 20-30 hour RPG to meet at the moment. But when I'm in the mood for that, this is on the list. I just want to appreciate it's got like a full manual and inner print, and it's I always like it when you like remove the cartridge and there's a little thing there, and like the little main character in there. That's neat. The cartridge is in my Switch Lite, which is why it's not in the box. But similarly, I have Omori, which it's in the box. I played this game first digitally, and I liked it so much that I wanted a physical, like really bad, because this is like a top 5 game for me. Like I adore Omori, and yeah, and this is a Fangamer release, which they're my favorites of the like Switch indie game publishers, because unlike freaking limited run games, Fangamer just like will constantly have like stock available. They will do reprints, and that is something I respect. Like I will buy a game from like limited run or like super rare or whatever if I have to, but I much prefer like not having to worry about a game going out of stock and then never getting reprinted and then costing $100 to get right. Because there is like one of my favorite indie games did get a limited run, or it might have been a super rare release. It was from one of those companies. It got like a limited printing, and it's like $100 to get now. And it's a short game. The game is a short hike. It's a short game, but that does make it hard to justify purchasing when it's like game I've already played before, and it takes like 3 hours max to beat. I'll get it one day. I'm sure, but it is by no means the top of my list of things to collect when I can buy like, I could get like every Wii U game I want for like under $30 a piece. And so it's like, when that's the case, it's a little hard to justify $100 for something like a short hike. So anyway, respect that about Fangamer, and I really like that their games aren't, done like limited stock. I'm looking to pick up Silksong from them when that comes out, because I intentionally did not play that game at launch because I was waiting for like a physical. Like I knew it would be popular enough to get a physical, and I'm very happy it's with them, and I'm very happy about all that. Whatever. Moving on. That's not mine. Okay, yeah. Let's get into the Pokemons. I'll keep these quick. I'll just go in order they came out. Pokemon Let's Go Eevee. I didn't really like this game too much when it first came out. I've dabbled in it since then. I do respect it a lot more now than I did at the time. I still think it's probably one of the weakest in terms of like content of like the Pokemon games on Switch. It's a good game. It's solid, and I think it's arguably the best looking Pokemon game on Switch. But just, yeah, it's still kind of like a more I say faithful, like, it's not necessarily that it's a fully faithful reimagining of Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow, but it doesn't add a lot more content than those games. The way it reimagines things is more so by, like, expanding or reworking the plotline and reworking the gameplay. But in terms of, like, content and the structure of the game, it is still very similar to Red, Blue, and Yellow, which I love. Like, Pokemon Yellow is one of my favorite games. But it was rather unexciting to me at the time, because I had played Pokemon Yellow by the time this came out, and I enjoyed Yellow a lot more. It was a little more interesting to go back to. This one, like I said, it's interesting. I do like it, and I especially think this is a good game to start a kid out with. But yeah, I do wish they would do more Let's Go games, because like my problem with Let's Go, Pikachu and Eevee was not that, had nothing to do with the gameplay, but it was more so the fact that they were reimagining this game. Like, I feel like if they were to continue with, like, a Johto game, I wouldn't have those issues, because I have, like, I think, like, the, Gold, Silver, Crystal have so much more content in general, and they are more interesting games as a whole, that it wouldn't matter if they, just copy and pasted the formula of this into another Let's Go game set in Johto. It wouldn't matter. Whatever. No one cares about that. I'm gonna move on. Sword and Shield. This game reminds me a lot of Skyward Sword in that it was kind of rough when it first came out, and that like when this was the brand new game, it was disappointing. But I think going back to it, it is pretty fun. I enjoy it a lot. I can respect it a lot more now that Pokemon games structurally don't play like this. I'll be honest, I'm a defender of like the graphics, or more, I should say, the art style. I think it could look better at times, like in terms of like graphical fidelity. But I think this game has like my favorite art direction of any Pokemon game. Shout out to James Turner. This game was also my introduction to Toby Fox. I had heard the name before, but I always thought it was really cool seeing him in the credits of Sword and Shield for doing. He was like a guest composer. He did a song, and without getting into it, that was the start of a lot in terms of like me and like enjoying Toby Fox's like work. He is like probably my favorite standalone game designer, and he is definitely my favorite, like one of my favorite musicians. Unfortunately, I don't have Undertale physically. It's on my list. I want to get it really soon. Anyway, but yeah, I like this game a lot. I think it's especially fun to go back to now. So if you didn't like this when it first came out, which I didn't, but I think if you didn't like it when it first came out, I think it's worth trying to revisit. So anyway, Pokemon Brilliant Diamond. I liked this game a good bit at launch. Because I hadn't and still haven't played the originals. I understand where people are coming from like a complaint perspective. I think all the complaints are valid. But for me, this was a solid way to experience Diamond and Pearl. I think if I were to want to play a Sinnoh region game again, I would want to play one of the originals. But I think this is solid for sure. I felt like, and I still kind of agree, that if this was a Zelda game or a Mario game, people wouldn't have complained as much, in that I think people were expecting more of Pokemon remakes than they would of normal Nintendo series. That said, again, I understand the complaints because, again, the past Pokemon remakes had been a lot more interesting, and they had done more to like set themselves apart from their originals. And when that was the expectation, I can understand why people were very disappointed by this. And I get that it is disappointing to not include like the new features and content from Platinum, because then it's like, it creates a weird precedent where that content is just like locked behind, decades old hardware and is like stupid expensive to track down, all that yada yada. But I thought it was a decent way to replay or to play through those games. And I would still, if you haven't played Platinum, or if you haven't played the originals, and if you just want to like try it out, I think it's a solid way to do so. Obviously, like I would recommend the older games over this, but I understand it's a lot easier to spend it's a lot cheaper to buy this used for like $40 than it is to track down a used copy of any of the DS Pokemons. So whatever, end of the pile you go. Now we're on to probably my favorite Pokemon game, Legends Arceus. This was such a fun time for me. I adored this game when it came out, and I think it's still really fun to go back to. I adore the soundtrack. Just everything about this game I really love. I've seen some people more critical of it in recent years, which I think is fair. But yeah, this is solid. I'm not talking a ton about this because I have a lot to say, and I'm trying to keep this quick. But yeah, good game. Like it a lot. And now on to the last of the mainline Switch Pokemon games. I only have the mainline ones on Switch. And that is Pokemon Violet. This game, I feel like I shouldn't like so much, because it has a lot of flaws, and I think objectively it is the worst of the mainline Pokemon games on Switch. But overall, just looking at the series as a whole, it has by far the highest highs and the lowest lows. The music is fantastic, not even just Toby Fox, but just enjoy like all everybody like Hitomi Sato and Minako Adachi adore their music, adore their compositions for this game. I keep having to keep my computer from going to sleep, but whatever. The writing in this game is, I think, probably the best of any of the Pokemon games. Even like Black and White, because I think Black and White, in hindsight, feel like a little edgy. But yeah, I really love the writing. But like visuals, whatever. It looks like poop a lot of times. Same goes for the performance on Switch 1. And even just like the open world design is like kind of bad. That said, it is really fun, and I think the concept, like the core gameplay of Pokemon, works really well in an open world, and like just running around, roaming around, catching Pokemon. I think that makes up for a lot of the flaws in the open world design. So I put like I play more of this than any other of the Switch Pokemon games, which is crazy because this one is so notorious, and I think it has a lot of very big issues. But the highs are so high that it kind of redeems itself, especially now when like the performance at the very least is fixed on Switch 2. So yeah, that goes in the pile. All right, we're making our way through. We'll go over to Mario Odyssey. I don't like this game as much as other people. Not that I have anything wrong with it. It just didn't stick with me in the same way, probably because I didn't play it at launch. And so, like, the novelty kind of wore off. Honestly, I think I played it after playing, like, 64 and Galaxy and Sunshine. Like, I played all those before playing this. And so, because of that, like, it didn't have the same spectacle it did when it had come out. That said, I mean, it's a great game. I think it's a fantastic game. I think, objectively, it's probably tied with, like, Galaxy for, like, the best Mario game. But yeah, I don't have a ton to say on it. I haven't really played through it after playing it first, like a few years ago. But yeah, obviously solid game. Into the pile. We got Mario Wonder, which I've not finished, but I do like this game a lot. This was a very exciting game to me, and I was very happy when it came out. Very happy to see like a good, solid, like. Just like not even just good, so like a fantastic 2D Mario again is really great to see. I also like that you can play as like Peach. So all in all, solid, great game. I have not finished it though because this came out in the period of time where I found it harder to actually finish games. It was easier to sit down and finish a game when I was like, 12. Not the case anymore. Not that this is a long game. But this came out alongside another game, which I'll find. Do I have it here? I do have it here. This came out at the same time as another game, a worse game, but a game I was more invested in, and that is Sonic Superstars. This game is controversial, as I think a good chunk of these are. I am of the opinion that this is a solid game, and I think it does a good bit to push 2D Sonic forward. A lot of people wanted a Mania 2, and while I would have taken a Mania 2, and I love Mania, but the issue with that is I feel like it would have kept 2D Sonic as like this like retro thing, and I feel like once that novelty wore off, it would have gotten old. But I appreciate this for like pushing the series forward stylistically, full 3D graphics. It's 30. It's 2D gameplay, but it's 3D graphics. Wholly new level designs and world themes. There are some flaws. Boss fights suck so bad, like worst boss fights in the series. And the music is very hit or miss, which is very odd for Sonic. It's got that like unfortunate like Jun Senoue like Sonic 4-esque production at times. And I love Jun Senoue, but like I don't like when he tries to make a retro sounding music. Like he just like the fake Genesis sound font is just not my thing. I much prefer the songs that he composed than let T. Lopes like arrange. So anyway, I like this game though. It's good. It's solid. I definitely recommend playing this. Into the pile. We're gonna go back to Mario because I want to talk about this. This is the last Mario game I have, so I feel like it's worth talking about now. Bam. 30 All-Stars. This was the first game where like it came out and I was like, oh, Nintendo did an oopsie. Um, Definitely the first time as a fan where like there was just a bad Nintendo PR move. Um, this should not have been a limited time release, and this definitely shouldn't have cost $60. Um, but for what it is, I think this is a solid way to play through the first 3D Mario games. This is also the first time the like Shindao release of Mario 64 got a release in the U.S., which is neat. And there are some tweaks like whatever HD HUDs, that's cool. Sunshine and widescreen is neat. It does kind of bug me that one of the games is in widescreen and the other isn't. I think I would prefer both of them not be in widescreen. But it's just weird that one's in widescreen and one isn't. And of course, it's nice to have Galaxy on, because Galaxy was the only game in here that I played before it came out, like in 2020. I played Galaxy on Wii, but I didn't have a Wii, as we've established. So it was nice to have that, and then these two Mario games that I was interested in playing that I had never played before because I didn't have the hardware. It was nice to play all those. Whatever. I don't know if I would recommend playing it this way today. Not because it's a bad way to play these games, but more so just because I think there's better, easier ways to play them. Like, Mario Galaxy has a better Switch re-release now. Mario 64 is on Switch Online, and like they're not that different. It's like, some of the buttons are remapped, which you can do in the emulator on Switch Online if you want. And, the text is in HD. So it's not as interesting now. Sunshine is not technically on Nintendo Classics yet. I'm convinced they will release it this month. And if not this month, next month. Because it's like, the summer game. It's whatever. I don't think anything in this package is worth tracking this down over unless you want it as like a collector's item. Also because it's like $80 now used, which is not what this cost initially. Like if you're in the market to pay that much for these games, you're not going to spend that much more just buying the originals, which I think is a more interesting, maybe not more interesting. I think that's a better way to play them from a like historical perspective. Obviously, you need all that old hardware, yada, yada, yada. But if you have a Switch, I think there's better ways to play these. And if you're in the mood to spend $80 to play 3 old Mario games, I think it would be worth it to spend $120 to play all these in their original form. Whatever, tangent over, end of the pile you go. Now, we're going to talk about Sonic. I must warn you, I don't have great things to say really about any Sonic games on the system. My most positive take was on Superstars and Mania. I don't have Mania physically. I want to get that soon, but whatever. We're going to start with Forces. This game blows. This game sucks. Omega ass. This is probably my least favorite game of all time. This is the copy I got when I was like 11. I got it. I ordered this with like Christmas money. I'm not getting into it. I have a whole story about ordering this off from Walmart. I ordered like the deluxe edition. I did not get the deluxe edition, but I paid deluxe edition money, and then I got like a $20 Walmart gift card that I think I don't know what I did with that, but I got a Walmart gift card because they sent me the wrong thing. But I was bummed because I wanted my Monkey Ball controller skin. No, it was I'm sorry, it was a Monkey Ball skin, a Monkey Ball like outfit in the game. And then, like a little like Joy-Con skin, which I thought was cool at the time. I don't think it's that cool anymore, but whatever. This game sucks. I'm not gonna get into why it sucks, but there's so many people online you can find talking about how this game blows Omega ass, and they are correct. Unfortunately, this is a trend with Sonic on the Switch. Sonic Colors Ultimate, again, this isn't a bad way to play the game. But, like, if all you have is a modern console, then, like, sure, play it this way. But it's a game I already don't think ages the best. When I say ages the best, I just mean I think it is easier to appreciate in the context of 2009 on a Wii versus today on a modern console, especially like a PS5, Because a lot of its like level design choices were made to accommodate a weaker system, and when you're playing that on a more modern hardware, it feels wrong, especially when you have other Sonic games that have better level design on these same platforms. But it was important, I think, to get Sonic Colors off of the Wii. I just think this was not a great way to do it. They messed up the lighting in a lot of the game, which, obviously is not good to preserve that art style. Like, it just looks better on Wii because, like, the bloom effects are so much... Like, they're so overblown on the Ultimate version. And, of course, the Switch version, in addition to that, runs 30 FPS, which isn't ideal for Sonic. Especially not when it's a Wii game. Like, okay, if they had just ported the Wii game to Switch, it could have run at 60. But instead they threw it on a new engine, made it look worse, and run at 30 with worse load times than the Wii. It sucks. That said, I've played through this whole version. It is a decent enough way to play it. I even got these, like, I got this Ultimate, it's got this little slip in here. And I will say, I appreciate when games come with, like, little slips. Whatever, that game kind of sucks. This game, I was going to say it kind of sucks as well, but it doesn't necessarily. This one's more nuanced. I think this is a flawed game, but pretty enjoyable and I think worth playing. I don't think the Switch version is worth playing, but this was all I had at the time. And unfortunately, the Switch 2 version, which came out recently, is also bad. And that it highlights some of the issues with this game weren't because of like technical limitations or anything, which not that game design necessarily would have been limited by technical limitations, but it kind of goes to show that like as a Switch player, I was not aware of the fact that like Sega or like Sonic Team had been kind of bad at optimizing these games for a while. And then I learned on Switch 2 they're just kind of not great at optimization. Because, this runs at 30, which I was expecting. But, the graphics were, like, really, really low. Like, imagine playing it on, like, lowest settings on, like, PC. And maybe even, like, a little lower than that. Like, I'm talking, like, it just looked bad. This was the second time I'd ever played a game on Switch where it felt like the system was struggling. And this was, like, 2022. But on Switch 2, I recently learned, like, whenever it's come out, and that thing is running at like 720p, 60 FPS, which is bad. Like that's what like it's bad. And like the Switch 2 can obviously do better than that. But as I've read online, it seems like the engine is just not the best for modern platforms, which makes sense because I think it's the same engine they've been using since like Sonic Unleashed. So it makes sense. And I'm sure they've updated it, but like long story short, it doesn't support something like DLSS, which would have made the Switch 2 version so much better. Like we probably could have gotten 1440p 60 FPS on Switch 2 if they just took the time to rework the engine to support 60 or to support DLSS, but they didn't do that. And so that just means I would just not recommend this necessarily on Nintendo platforms unless you can get it for cheap and you're willing to play a game at 720 FPS in 2026. And I especially wouldn't recommend the Switch 1 version unless that's all you have and that's all you will have for the next like 5 years. It's not a game worth like playing right now anyway. Whatever. This is comparatively this is solid. Sonic, like it's a good remake of Sonic Generations. I think a much better version of Sonic Generations than like Colors. Like it is just a straight port of Generations with like a shorter side game attached to it. And so yeah, I think this is definitely like if you have a Switch or really any modern platform and you want to play Generations, this is a good way to do it. It does run at like I want to say 1080p 30 FPS on Switch 1. Which, isn't ideal, but I mean, that's better than it ran on PS3, which is how I first played the game. So, and what I will say, what is cool, the Switch version does come with a bunch of little goodies, like this little, like, I don't know, like project log thing of like, I want to say Ivo Robotnik. And it even has this little code to download a like Sonic Adventure skin. I like having the physical goodies; those are nice. I mean, whatever. Even if it's just like an ad for Sonic 3, like the movie. I think it's cool having that in a day and age where a lot of games don't have junk like that. But yeah, I would recommend playing that on other platforms. I have some mild issues with like Shadow Generations. And again, the Shadow Generations bit on Switch 2 has the same issues as Sonic Frontiers on Switch 2. I'm hoping I heard that the Sonic team like moved over to Unreal Engine for Sonic Racing Cross World, and that runs better on Switch 2. So I would hope that means performance will be better going forward. Which honestly, it's crazy that like Unreal Engine 2, no, the Unreal Engine is like better than like the Hedgehog engine that Sega uses. Like I'm not used to Unreal Engine meaning, oh yes, the game's going to perform better. Whatever. That game's not mine. Alright, so the last physical Switch 1 game I have is my most recent purchase, Tomodachi Life, Living the Dream. I'll be honest, I've not played this one a ton. It's fun, I like it, and I really respect what this game does. I'll be honest, I more so bought this because my younger sibling wanted it, and I was like, you know what, yeah, sure, it is one of the last Nintendo, like, original Switch 1 games, and I felt like it was worth picking up. And I'll dive into it more eventually at some point. Not really a time, or right now I'm like not really in a time where I'm wanting something like this, but I am glad to have it. But yeah, I'm more so about this for my younger sibling. Anyway, we're gonna get into the last few games here on Switch 2. That's not mine. Okay, we'll start. We'll just go chronologically. Mario Kart World. It's Mario Kart World. It's a good game. I think it's like my second favorite Mario Kart game, and I think it's my favorite to play like by myself. It's my like decompression game. But yeah, it's a really good game. I think it's a little overhated online. Like it is another controversial one. But I do think it is a very solid experience. I like it a lot. Shouldn't have been $80. Yeah, you guys know all that junk. Going out of there. Next I got Pokemon Legends ZA and Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. I've not gotten around to this one because I got these both as like gifts for Christmas, and I just finished ZA like a month ago. And I'm not currently in the Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment mood right now because I haven't replayed Tears of the Kingdom in a bit, and I'm currently working my way through the first Hyrule Warriors, so I'm not really in the mood, but I'm glad to have it, and what I played of it is really good. I really like that it's using an all-original cast. That's great. Like that. I thought it's cool that Pro ZD voices one of the Koroks, the Korok character. But I'll get to this eventually. I respect everything I've heard about this. I'm just not really in a very like. I'm not in the mood for this at this very moment. I'll get to this eventually, and I'm sure I'll enjoy it. Into the pile. I didn't talk about Legends ZA that much. This was definitely a controversial game. I enjoy it. I do think it is a very 7 out of 10 game. I think this will definitely be easier to enjoy once this isn't the only Pokemon game on Switch 2. Similar to Sword and Shield. The graphics aren't great. It is nice to have it run at like 4K 60 on Switch 2. I think, here's the thing. I've seen a lot of people discuss that like the city environment ruin the game. I don't think the fact that this game was set in the city is the problem. I think the fact is they didn't design the city to be interesting. Like you can't go in most of the buildings, but more so like everywhere in the city looks the same, and so it just feels very samey throughout the entire game, which can get a little exhausting for like a 40-hour RPG. That said, I really enjoy the combat. I really like the characters. The story, I think, is nice, mostly because it's very scaled back compared to a lot of modern Pokemon games. And I think that's refreshing to have a game where the story isn't like about some massive, corrupt, mega corporation. Not that I don't like that plotline, but it's like this. It's just the scope is a lot smaller, which I do appreciate, and I really like the characters. I like the music a lot. It was cool to see Insane in the Rain music do the main like overworld theme. Like that's awesome. I really like the gameplay. Even like the gameplay loop is really good. The side quests are fantastic. But yeah, there's just some small things kind of holding it back pretty significantly. But yeah, I like it a lot. Into the pile. Next we have Star Wars Outlaws, which I bought because it was on sale for $30, and I kind of wanted a more graphically intensive game on Switch 2, just because like I wanted to play something that like was more of a showcase of the new hardware. Because everything else I've shown for Switch 2, mind you, is stuff that like could have worked on Switch 1. Like it would have been worse, it would have ran worse, but it could have happened on Switch 1. You know, and ZA was it was like a cross-gen game. So I wanted something that was like, hey, this is just like a beefy modern gen game. And this was it. It was on sale too. Like I didn't pay full price for this. This was on sale for $20 or $30. I forget the price. But it is a decent game. I think if you're a Star Wars fan, you can get a lot out of this. Like, you know, and I am a pretty big Star Wars fan. But it is also just kind of like a generic Ubisoft action game. The open world stuff is very boring. But it's fun. Like, you know, again, if you can pick it up, if you're a Star Wars fan and you can pick it up for $30, I think you'll get enough out of this. I haven't beat this because I was caught up in other games. But, you know, it's decent. And then lastly, my most recent purchase, Street Fighter 2, 6, not 6, 2, no, 6. Oh my god, Street Fighter 6. Yes, that game, the new one that came out on a new console. I got this because I'll be honest, I keep seeing fan art of all the Street Fighter characters, and I think their character designs look really good. And I've been wanting something I can, you know, play a little more like arcadey, and I've been wanting to get into like fighting games. So I jumped on this when it was on sale last month for I think $30. I'm very, very, very bad. And like I've not even had time to really like learn the game well. But over the summer, I would like to get more into it. And I do definitely recommend this on Switch 2 if you want a fighting game. It looks very nice, runs very nice. Yeah, good game. Okay, that is it. I was right in that this would be a long video, but I am proud of myself for being under an hour. So yeah, we'll leave it here. Thanks for watching this crap. I will do a video on the rest of my games at some point. I don't really... I'm waiting, actually. I have 2 that are coming in the mail that I ordered off eBay. 2 like older games. And so I want to add those to the collection before I do one. Like a video on the collection, the rest of the collection. But, yep, there we go. That's it. All right, thank you for watching. If you stuck through for all 47 minutes of this, you get a thumbs up from me. Big thumbs up.